Hello and welcome to this tutorial on Git. Hopefully if you are watching this video, you are either new to Git or you use it in some capacity but you'd like it to go from what does this thing do and how do I accomplish this to it's a great tool that makes my day better. So let's review a quick project that we're not going to use Git for. We're going to write a quick book. It's going to be an epic adventure of Bob the Dragon Fighter. And obviously we're going to start with chapter 1, because why wouldn't we? And I'm going to go ahead and open this project in Visual Studio, just because I can. You can use Notepad. You can use Notepad++, brackets, whatever you want to use. But here is where we are going to write our masterpiece. The day was bleak or something great. Maybe a couple spelling errors in there, you never know. And now that I've closed this, maybe I sleep on this and I come back to it the next day. Great. I'm going to go ahead and continue writing bright and early in the morning. Oh no, I made a mistake. Great. We should probably mention Bob. Now, I forgot what I originally wrote here. Was it any good? Did it have errors? I have no idea. And that information is completely and utterly lost to us. While it may not be a big deal for the giant novel we've started, it would definitely be a bigger problem in a project where we had hundreds of files that have evolved over time. And that is what Git helps us do. And let's start from there. If we already have Git installed, which if you don't, pause the video, go install it, and then grab source tree as well. I'm going to teach a little bit of source tree and mainly try to focus on the command line interface, which is this over here. The reason I'm going to focus on this is because if you're on a Mac or Windows computer or Linux, it doesn't matter. The command line will be there and accessible. If you're working somewhere and they only give you source tree to use, and then you change jobs or they change software, and you've been using command line, you don't care anymore. You just keep using command line. It's always going to work. On the other hand, if you change from source tree to Git Kraken or Git Desktop, now all of a sudden you have to learn a whole new GUI or graphical user interface, and now you have a whole new thing on your plate to learn and figure out how to do basic things all over again. Whenever you open up source tree, it should look something like this. Same with command line. Right now, this is not a Git repository, so let's change that. If I do a git init, we will create a new repo. I'm also going to show you how to do that in source tree. I've navigated here to the folder I want to create it in. I've pressed OK, and I will click Create. Click Yes. And now, as you can see, it has created a .git folder. I will cancel this command. If you don't see this, it's probably just a setting. If you want to make sure it's there, you can do an ls-la, and it will show you that there is indeed a .git folder here. So now let's look at the GUI just a little bit more. You'll notice the word staged files and unstaged files. Well, what is the difference? A staged file means that when we create a version of this file, anything in the staged files list will be included. So right now, if I tried to do a git commit, you'll notice A, it's not going to work, and B, even the actual button is grayed out. So you'll notice that there's nothing added to the commit, but untracked files are present. What that's trying to tell you is that Git hasn't been told to stage these files. So if we do that, we can either select the files we want and click Stage Selected, or we can do a Stage All if we do indeed want all of them. In this case, we do want all of the files, so I'm going to click Stage. I could do the same thing. I've just clicked the Unstage button here. I could do the same thing with a git add, and I can type in the file I want, and if you give it a moment, the GUI will also update to reflect that. So right now, we haven't versioned this file. We do that with a commit. So this is going to be our first commit. And I'm going to go ahead and click that. And now if we click the branch, you will see that we have one commit in this graphical kind of view. So I'm going to go ahead and just show you basically what we've done. This was the original location. You'll notice there are no files because there weren't any. We've made our first commit, and we've added the text to the file right here. So whatever this is now what the file looks like. If we go ahead and make another commit and we change it to use this, he wakes up ready to fight the dragon, which is good because apparently dragons like to fight. Okay, great. Let's go ahead and make that commit. I pasted over the old document here. I'm going to just format it very nice so we can see what's going on. And let's go back and look at our GUI. You'll notice some changes. If you click the commit button, once again, we have a red file and it's unchanged. Notice that the symbol is different. This is because the file was edited instead of added. So if we click here, it will actually show us a nice little preview that this line was deleted and these two were added. So that's also a nice little benefit. If you do a git diff, it will do the same thing for you in the command line interface. For comparisons, I have to admit I usually use the GUI. I think it's a little easier to see when you get tons of files in there, but to each their own, do what you want to do. So let's go ahead and add this the same way we did last time. We've staged this file, so now when we make a commit, it will be a part of it. Now I want to go ahead and just come over here. I'm going to add one more file. We're going to call it chapter 2. And apparently it needs the .text. Okay, so I have a file called chapter 2. And if we look at this, we will see that we now have one staged file, chapter 1, and a new file that is unstaged. So let's make our commit. We did it last time in source tree. I'll do it this time in the command line. Both are the same result. It's all in how you want to do it. So we are adding chapter 1 updates, not the chapter 2 file, which is very important because that file exists. And if we refresh this, or let it refresh rather, you will notice that there are no more stage files. Chapter 2 is still unstaged with no contents in it. And we now have two versions of our chapter 1 file, which is great because I've already forgotten what in the heck we had done originally, but Git doesn't. So if we wanted to go back to what we originally had, we can. I'll show you guys how to do that later. For now, let's keep moving forward. And you'll notice that what source tree has, what Git has kind of hidden away from us is this path. Originally, we had no files. Then we made one commit with this information in it. Now we've made another commit, and we have this information. We haven't lost anything, and yet when we open the file, we only see the latest version, which is incredible. Because now we no longer need to worry about, well, if I change this, how do I put it back? Or maybe I want to compare them later and take a little from column A, a little from column B. We can do that now. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and add some text to our second chapter. Lily, Bob's best friend, will surely help him. And so Bob heads to the market to find Lily. Great. Just an absolute masterpiece. I'm going to go ahead and do a git add splat asterisk star, whatever you want to call it. What this does, if we look at git status, a git add star will literally add everything in the unstaged file list to the stage file list. You can also do a git add dot, which will add everything in the current folder. Since we only have the one folder, I'm just going to do that, and it's going to go ahead and add this file. If we do a git status, you'll see it's in green. If we open up source tree and let it refresh, you will see that we've added this to our stage, and the file changes are here. So let's go ahead and do a commit. I'll do it in source tree this time. Adding chapter 2. We'll make a commit, and we're golden. Great. With chapter 2 in place and our story really coming along, there's a problem. I'm not sure if Lily would really enjoy fighting dragons or if she would rather not be burned alive. And so I'm going to go ahead and branch my story. I want to go 2 different directions, and we'll see which one ends up with the better story. So in one of these versions, you could call it, Lily is going to help Bob. So I'm going to call this branch Lily Helps Bob. And what is a branch? A branch is basically a snapshot of all of the same exact files and their latest versions. So this doesn't change anything, it doesn't break anything. Branch away, have fun. So now I'm going to go back to the master branch by double-clicking. I've created a new branch where Lily does help Bob, and I've gone back to master. So if I hit enter a couple of times, you will see that I'm still on the master branch. You'll know that because it says master here, and up here it says master in bold, and it also has the little ring next to it. So if we do a git checkout -b, this stands for, I guess, branch? I don't know. To me, it may have been in, but I'm guessing in was already used. It's how we create a new branch. So what we're going to do is git checkout B, and we're going to call this Lily Refuses. Hit enter. Now if we let the GUI update, you will see that we are on a new branch. We've checked it out, and it's good to go. So I want to mention one thing, and that is where you are when you currently create a branch does matter. Both of these were started from master, and later we will see that in the graph. We won't see it right now. And why is that? I have no real idea why it doesn't show you that branches are created yet. Once we make a commit, it will be very obvious in the graph here. But let's take a look at what this looks like in Git right now. Here is our second commit. We have our first 2 files. This is the latest version of this file. This is the only version of this file. And we have one branch where Lily does not help. And you'll notice they are identical, completely identical snapshots. And same thing down here where Lily refuses to help him. Apparently, again, being burned alive, not her idea. So this looks pretty simple so far. We've made some commits on our main branch or master, and now we have 2 identical branches waiting for our work. Alright, I hope this visual representation helps and shows you just how identical these are. And let's go ahead and work on the branch we're currently on, which is where Lily refuses to help. So that's great. I'm going to create another chapter in our book and save this information. Once again, we know the deal here. Git status, just out of habit. Git add. Git commit. So now this file has been staged, and I'll just show you that real quick. Make sure you see it's in green. It's a new file. And, again, if we go up to our commit menu, it's a new file with new text. Awesome. Now, I'll go ahead and do the commit over here again. Adding chapter 3. Great. I've committed this. We're here. Awesome. Let's make one more commit. Chapter 4. I know what happens in chapter 4 as well. And here it is. Bob angrily heads up the mountain to find the dragon named Jack. Great, great. Okay, so again, let's do this all from source tree this time. If I go over to the commit box, we don't have anything staged. I only want this file, which was all of them, so that's fine. Adding chapter 4, angry Bob. Great. Commit. Okay. Now I'm I'm not sure how that's going to work out in the end. So let's switch gears. I'm going to check out with the command line. We do not need the -b here because the -b means that we want to create a new branch. But let's go ahead and do it anyway. And we get a fatal error. A branch named whatever already exists. Oh, okay. Up arrow. Very handy thing, by the way, the up arrow. Remove the -b argument, and now we've changed branches. If we let the GUI catch up, there it is. You'll notice that we now have this branch bolded, and everything's looking pretty good. So if we go ahead and look at our diagram, we're up here. We've added chapter 3. I'll zoom in just a little bit. We have created this branch that was on its own. Lily doesn't want to help him. That was our chapter 3. And now we've added chapter 4. We're doing great. This is the exact diagram that we see. We still have our branch down here. And we're going to go ahead and further this one where Lily does decide to help. And if we open up Visual Studio again, you'll notice our chapter 3 and 4 are remembered fondly by Visual Studio code, but they're gone. So let's go ahead and close out of those. Notice the file list is empty. Let's add a new chapter 3. And in this situation, Lily agrees. Getting burned alive sounds great. I'm going to go ahead and add chapter 4. And in this one, they travel up the mountain together to find Archer the dragon. Notice that he's not named Jack anymore. That'll come up later. If I do a git status, we have 2 new files. I'm only going to add the one I wanted, chapter 3. And then I'm going to git commit m. And we're going to say adding chapter 3, Lily and Bob. I do that all the time. Travel together. I'll get this right. Okay, great. Now again, if we go down to the visual, we see that we have added chapter 3. Hopefully that's legible, or readable, rather. So, if I look at source tree again, you should recall that we still have our chapter 4 because we didn't stage it. We only staged the one file. So even though I've added 2, Git doesn't force you to commit everything at once all the time. When you're ready to make a commit, you can. And you should be ready very frequently because commits are free. They don't hurt anything. So we are adding chapter 4, which is actually where Lily and Bob travel, but that is fine. Commit message may not be right. It's not. Oh well. All right, so now we have 2 different versions. One where Lily can help and one where she doesn't. So if I check back out to master, you'll see one branch here. And this is the branch where we are very angry. So now the question is, I've decided that in all reality, Lily would definitely help Bob because she likes being burned alive or doesn't think the odds are that bad. One of the two. So I've added some arrows here just to point out that if we were to think of each of these little circles as a commit, then these arrows would be branches, where the red is the branch where Lily decides that getting burned alive isn't all that bad. Blue is the one where she decides it really is bad and we don't want to do this. And green is the actual master one where we're really going to, go forward with our masterpiece. And so again, if we think about commits, what we're aiming to do is something like this. We want these two commits to be pushed over here. And what we call this is a merge. That being said, it's important to note that a merge does not delete anything. This is still going to be here. The records are all there. You could come back to this at any point in time. We'll talk more about that later. But for now, let's do a merge. So merges can be done in two ways. We can right-click on the branch and click merge. It will give you that branch's name into the current branch. So what this is saying is to bring those commits onto the master branch. Same thing can be done here where Lily helps Bob. And I'm going to go ahead and do it here. It's going to work. It's added chapter 3 and chapter 4. So now if we go view, we have a chapter 3 and a chapter 4 again. And if you'll notice, those are the right files at the correct versions. And since there's only one version, that should be totally fine. I'm going to go ahead and add a chapter 5 now. Notice that I'm on the master branch again. Generally, best practices do not work directly off of the master branch, but that's okay. So if we open up this file that I already have here, we know that, Lily and Bob would clearly be excited on their way. They have forgotten a sword and shield, and so Archer provides them with a rope. They play until they're all exhausted, and Bob then gets a ride on a dragon around town to show off to all of his friends. It's a great story. And now that I've added this, we'll do the standard git add, git commit, perfect ending. Great. So what we have now is a really great story, but I want to actually think about renaming the character. So let's go ahead and let's create a new branch. So I'm going to check out a branch. We're going to call it rename Lily to Eve. It's a pretty simple branch. All I'm going to do is I'm going to control F for Lily, and I'm going to replace it with Eve. Pretty simple. Let's do a get status. Sorry for the skip, my headset died. Alright, so you'll notice that I've changed these 4 files. Eve is now the new name being used, and I'm going to go ahead and stage these. Renaming complete. Great job. Make our commit. And now I'm going to go back to master, and I want you guys to be able to see what's happening. The name is Eve. We haven't merged that on master, so as soon as I click or double click, you see it changes immediately to Lily. Great job. Okay. So let's pretend you're working with somebody else. His name is Jack. He's helping you write this story for some reason. Jack is on the master branch and he thinks, you know what? I just don't like chapter 3. So I'm going to update chapter 3. Because chapter 3, he just doesn't think this is what Lily would really go for here. So instead, Lily hesitates. But Bob is persistent and convinces her that there is no better way. Yeah, we get the rest. Okay, great job. This is way more realistic. I think it's great. Okay. Add, I'm going to use the dot here. We could have used splat. We could have typed in chapter 3, whichever. They are different, but in this case it would have had the same result. So this is now added, git commit m, more realistic Lily. Notice that. Okay. Now, as the project manager, I see these things. We're going to go back to master. And again, note that our work is gone. Lily is back to being very excited about being burned alive. And I want to make that change. But I also know that we have some other branches out here. A git branch will list them all for you. And we have some other branches here where things are happening. So we know what's happened in the rename branch. So that's definitely a change I want to make. So let's go ahead and merge that in. I believe last time I did command line, so I will do it this time the other way. Rename Lily to Eve. Let's merge that. Let's add those commits. Great. So now the master branch, it has been renamed to Eve. And if we look, indeed, it shows her name is now Eve. So the problem we're going to run to now is that with the master branch updated, we've changed chapter 3 by two different people at two different, we'll call them times, but at two different versions. So Git is no longer able, or it's no longer going to be able, to discern which version of this file we actually want to keep. So I'll do a git merge, update chapter 3, enter. And we're going to get some warnings here. Merge conflict in chapter 3, automatic merge was failed, fix the conflicts, and then commit the result. What does that mean? It means go look at the files. You'll see that chapter 3 has a real problem. We got weird arrow characters and everything else here. If we look at this file, Git is basically saying, hey, the current version doesn't match the change to the other version. So I don't know what you want me to do because I cannot draw, the difference here. Okay, so let's look at the old one. Eve agrees, what better way? Lily hesitates. This is what we want, but the name would be wrong. No one knows who Lily is since we have clearly renamed her to Eve. Okay, I could accept both changes. I can use these little hotkeys, but I don't really want to rely on an IDE right now. I want this to be, anything you do kind of works. So let's go ahead and delete this. Add it. Let's fix her name. Make sure it's not anywhere else. I don't see it here. We can make sure. Hey, Lily's not found. Great. I'm going to go ahead and save this. And I'm going to make one more change. Two more changes, three more changes. Note that it doesn't matter. Git does not care what the result of the file is. It only cares that it knows how to bring the current version to the next version during this merge. That's all it cares about. So now, with this done, if we go into source tree again, notice that our status even shows, hey, we are in the middle of merging. This is the branch we're on, and this is what we're in the middle of doing. If we click here and click stage, now we've staged all of our changes. We have an automatic message. So I'm going to go ahead and use that auto message because I don't like typing. We'll commit it. And if we come over here, hit enter a couple of times, we will see that we're no longer in this merging state. So that's how you can tell what you're doing, whether you're in terminal or CLI or in the GUI. I started working on a file. I decided, I kind of want to add, I kind of want to add a new chapter. I think there's room in this novel for a chapter 6 where other things happen. But I told you guys earlier we shouldn't be working off of master. But this took me 6 hours to write. I don't want to try to copy and paste the hundreds of files I've changed or altered and the 3 I deleted and the 2 I added. I don't want to do all of that. I just want my changes somewhere else. Because I'm not ready to push this onto master, so what do? It's pretty simple. You can do a git checkout with a new branch and call this testing out chapter 6. When I do this, it will bring all of the changes over. I haven't lost my file. It's still there. How great. Now if I do a status, you will see that my branch has been updated and I am with one unstaged file. So great. I've avoided any type of problems by pushing things directly to the master branch, which should be, generally speaking, avoided. Now, what if I go ahead and I know that this is what I want. So I make a commit, adding chapter 6. Oops. Control C. There we go. So I've added this, it's committed, we're ready to go. And I'm going to go ahead, I don't even like the name Bob. I just don't. His new name is going to be Greg. Why not? Would save it, and we're in action. Unfortunately, my boss was over my shoulder. He realized that the whole project, the book, they've already ordered the hard-covered copies. It says Bob on it. We cannot rename Bob. All right, I'm in the middle of this. What do? I've made changes to all 5 of these files. I haven't committed anything. But what if I've staged one? Git stage, git add chapter, we'll just do chapter 1. So if we want to see this in source tree, here we go. I'm on a new branch. I have made a commit, and I am staging 1. I decide that I don't actually want to do that, but I've already committed 2. I've committed chapter 1. Updating new name in chapter 1. Okay, so let's take one more look at what this is going to look like. And now my manager, he's very angry. We cannot rename Bob. What do? I have changes that are not committed, and I also have changes that are committed. This is not a real big deal for Git. If you do a git reset -- hard, you will remove everything up to the last commit that you've made. So this is basically a permanent change. This is one of the destructive things you can do in Git, so tread lightly. But if we hit enter, you will see that all of our changes will disappear. If we look at our files here, chapter 5 still has Bob, 4, 3, 2, but wait a minute, I made a commit, it's Greg here. Now, I could do that, save, commit, and we're good. When we merge this in, into master, it would be totally fine. But let's pretend here, you've made a lot of changes and you need to go back. If you knew that you didn't want this commit at all, you can do a git reset hard head tilde. And then this next number will be the amount of commits you wish to cut off of the top. It's probably a good idea to be very careful with this because you will be not only removing that, but you will also be removing the work. So you're not just deleting or changing the files back, you're also removing the commits. So let's pretend we're not that gutsy, or maybe we don't want everything gone. We can actually do soft head tilde and again the number of changes you want to go back. And in this case, it's just one. With a soft reset, if we look at our status again, notice that nothing's changed. Greg is still here. Chapter 1 is a stage change. Let's take a look at that in the GUI. Maybe that could help us out. And we see, oh, this is still a change. So now if I do a git reset hard, we will remove that change, and all is well with the world. Bob is back, and we're ready to go. The key takeaway here is the difference between the soft and hard resets. Both of them support using head to actually go back commits. Hard deletes the commit and the work, whereas soft just removes the commit. If you need to modify a commit, it's really easy to do a soft reset. Maybe you need to change things or stash something or kind of go back on something. You can do that. In general, I suggest if you don't need to do the reset, it's generally better just to keep adding work and making more commits. It's very easy to roll them back or check them out later. So try not to do too much resetting. But if you find that you went down a rabbit hole or there are definitely things you just don't want, a git reset hard is a great way to just, hey, I totally was on the wrong page. I don't want to do this. But if it's something, even like, you go down the rabbit hole, but you discovered a couple of cool things. If you've created a branch for this, by all means, commit it and then check out another branch. Go back to master or main or level design or whatever branch you're on. Cut a new one off. Git checkout -b, version, trial number 2 of implementing whatever feature, fixing whatever bug. Do that, and then this way the other one, it sits there, and maybe 3 months later you're like, wait a minute, I had an idea on how to fix this, and I went down a rabbit hole, and I discovered this really cool thing. Let me go look at that. And then it's just a git checkout command away, and all is well.